it's tier announcements. Well, it's the day after pre-season qualifying, which went very well yesterday, very successful night. I'm joined by the two owners, cat named Minty and Sam, and also Cooper, one of our admins here at EVR.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Cooper here. Hope you're having a good day today.
We're just gonna get some of the links out, and then we'll go through. Well, what we'll be talking about is each driver and what tier they've been placed in. But just a side note is these are provisional. These can change next week depending on how people will do in the actual official preseason race.
And obviously, in the preseason race, obviously we are back at Belgium. Obviously, just to maybe see differently on quali pace and obviously race pace. If we were to choose a different track, then I guess we've got a little bit of inconsistency, and obviously changes would it'll be a little bit more confusing for us because there'll be some tracks, there'll be other tracks where people are probably terrible at, and it won't help us at all. So we've decided to go with Belgium for it, like we did with this week. So if you know what I mean, it's probably going to be much easier, and hopefully people will enjoy it next week as well.
Yeah, I mean last night was amazing, and it's season 2 of EVR, or well, EPR as it used to be, but now it's EVR. And I mean, coming from 1 tier to 3 tiers, we discussed this yesterday. I mean, a lot of us didn't think that we were going to manage to get that many drivers in, but we did, and we've done very well.
Well, obviously we have to thank certain people who's actually just talked just now. We'll have to thank him for the majority of it, obviously, and obviously it's just the ambition that we've all had to keep moving forward. And like me and Brett were speaking the other week, we were supposed to do 2 tiers, and me and Brett just thought we've got over 40 drivers. We've still got like over 2 weeks left till we get underway. And well, why not? Let's just go for 3 tiers, and let's see how it goes. So that's what we've done, and we've been able to achieve it. We've been able to get 3 full grids sorted out.
Just wanted to say hello to everyone in the chat. I see Ivan, Lion, Montana, Chris, Aquaplaning, Callum Anderson, and Gavin. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hello to all of you. I'm hoping there's more people coming in the stream soon. We've already got 16 watching, according to what I'm seeing. There's probably more than that right now, but hello to everyone. I hope everyone is hyped and excited for tonight.
There's also Kieran, Cohen, hello. We're just going to wait another few minutes to get everyone else in, and then we will get right underway with F3.
It's going to be an interesting season. There's a lot of drivers here. They're very close to each other on pace. It was very hard to decide the tiers, so...
Trust me, we were going through it this morning. It was almost impossible. There were certain people in F1 that have been put into F2, obviously maybe a little bit controversial, as you see tonight. I just want to mention to everyone who is either in whichever tier, please don't get angry at us if you think you're in the wrong tier, because like we said, next week you'll have a chance to prove that you're in the wrong tier, where you have a second chance to be boosted up to F1, or maybe even down to F3 or down to F2, or F3 drivers could be moved up to F2, of course, as well. So these are obviously only provisional tiers, so just be aware of that. It does say that at the bottom of the post that we launched on Twitter later, so obviously take a look at Twitter if maybe you missed something. But just want to clarify that obviously, you know, these are really provisional, and maybe next week we could tamper with a few things if we've got things seriously wrong. But besides that, you should all be in the right tiers, and to what we believe, looking at other stats and other things such as what other leagues you're in and how you're performing in those leagues, etc. We look at all those, and obviously your time trial around Britain, and obviously what you did yesterday.
Well, one of the things that we would like to mention also is, even if you're in maybe not the tier, maybe not the top tier, maybe not the tier above, it doesn't mean you're necessarily off the pace. It just means that we thought you might enjoy that tier a bit better, and it might make it more enjoyable for not only you but the viewers of the league.
and obviously we want to make sure that no one is in the wrong tier. So everything is going well. But everyone keeps on typing in the chat. Obviously, all of you, and I want to see some people showing their hype in the chat, and obviously everyone is already. 18 people in here, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I say let's get underway with F3. So,
so why not?
starting ahead, we'll go from Williams to Mercedes for each tier. So, it starts with the Williams of Daniel and BJ for F3. I mean, these two drivers, BJ from Australia, very young. I mean, what do you think his input compared to Daniel, who's a bit older and a bit more experienced on the F1 games? Do you think it's going to benefit them?
I think they could be a strong partnership, I think Daniel would... I think he asked to go into Williams, and he wants to be in the Williams, so I thought just stick him in there. And I think it's interesting putting BJ in there with them, and like you said, it's probably a little less experience, and obviously he's from Australia, so has to wake up early, so we've had to take a lot of things into consideration, and I think it could be a strong lineup, and there's a lot of potential there. I know that Daniel has been improving recently on times, and maybe potentially these two could be a strong partnership, and they could contend up in the midfield, or maybe even contend for the Constructors' Championship, obviously.
Well, what do Cooper and Minty think about this?
I'll go first. I don't really know much about them, but Sam seems to think they have good pace, so why not? They can go for Constructors. I don't see why they can't go for it and win it.
Well, obviously, if F3's going to be good, but let's hear Minty's view as well.
It's going to be interesting, of course, the experience of Daniel. I think that's his name. It's going to help them, and I just wanted to point out that the teams are not in order of pace.
Yes.
They won't be in order of pace, but most of the teams, constructor-wise, constructors should be very close in all tiers. We've tried to make sure it's as close as we possibly can put it. Should we get on to Toro Rosso? Because obviously in Tier 3 we probably can't really say much about most of these drivers, since it's probably there's not really as much information as we can give these drivers as we probably can in the next two tiers, and obviously we need to keep moving on. So I'm going to announce the Toro Rosso team, and the Toro Rosso team will be You Up Baboon J and Catboy Key. So what are your guys' thoughts on this partnership?
Same again. I'm not really sure. I haven't really known these people in F3 as much as I would in F2 and F1.
Well, I'm
so
going
to say I'm not sure really.
Go straight off the bat. From Jay, I know he's very young, and Catboy Key, he's one of the drivers, I mean, has gained so much pace just over the course of a week, basically. And I think if he continues to go like that, and I believe he will, we could be seeing him maybe at the head of F3 going into the end of the season.
This could be obviously interesting. What is Minty's views on this partnership between the two?
Well, I don't really know them. I'm being honest, I never saw them race. So I don't really have any predictions for them. Same as Cooper, so...
Well, in my opinion, first of all, Baboon J, I do know who he is. He's in a few decent leagues and decent tiers, obviously. In those leagues, I think he definitely could be a contender if he's not bottled. He is known though to bottle quite a bit, similar to Chapelele, but we'll get on to him later. Obviously, this is tier 3 at the moment. As for Catboy Key, like Brett has said, Brett was the one who brought him in, and since then we noticed that his pace was really, I guess, it was much slower than much of the guys, and we were a little bit worried about him. But we have obviously seen him progress over the last week, and he's shown real ambition to prove us wrong. And like Brett said, if he continues the way he's going, he really could be a contender here and surprise a few names.
Well, I mean, being in the Toro Rosso, it doesn't mean you're in that kind of top tier team. Which, even though it's not about that, obviously, big drivers usually go for the bigger teams. I think it will allow them to grow as I think they'll sit in the back for a bit at the start of the season, and then eventually start to go for it. But I say we move on to Alfa Romeo, which I'm just going to go right into, which is Cam and Callum Anderson. Now, seen Callum Anderson in the chat there saying he's an F3. He guessed one thing right, but he is not in the Renault.
Ooh, he's got one thing wrong. Yeah, so this partnership, I'm gonna just go straight in and say that I think New Zealand Cam should definitely be up there to win this title. If he gets everything right, he's definitely got the pace, in my opinion, to be at the top. And obviously in the Alpha as well, it's not going to be the easiest car. It's probably something that he's not so familiar to, but it's a car which he hopefully will enjoy. And obviously a teammate like Callum, I think it might be a good battle between these two. They might try to challenge each other for the top position, but in my opinion, I think Cam should be towards the top of the championship. And obviously, if Callum Anderson could keep up with Cam, which I'm sure he will do, but obviously Cam and Callum Anderson should be a very good partnership.
Well, yeah, I mean, both quite controversial sometimes during races. I think it'll be quite good to watch them though.
Mm.
I think it'll be a big inner team battle. I would like to hear from Cooper and Minty though.
Starting off with Minty.
I'm just going to say, these two, they intend to bottle quite a lot from what I've seen
Yeah.
in other races, if I've raced with them. So if they can keep it clean, whoever keeps it clean out of them two will win the drive battle, if that's what you want to call it. So yeah, if they keep it clean, I think they can both be challengers for the title.
Yeah, and what is Minty's view on this?
Callum Anderson, he isn't known to be the best. I'm not trying to throw shade at him, but I think he's going to be somewhere in the midfield around, but I know New Zealand Cam, I'm good friends with him. I think he's going to be up there in the championship fight at the end of the season.
So, was that your last words, Minty?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, that was your last words. Anyone else got anything to say about this duo?
No.
Okay, so we can swiftly move on to the Racing Point, and maybe a little bit of a different partnership here. I'm not sure if these two have raced together before, or I don't really know their pace too much, but P&P Try and Catch and Dean Gamer YouTube, or Dean Gamer YT for short, in the Racing Point. Starting off with Brett, do you know these guys too well, and what are your hopes for them? What do you think they'll do in the championship?
Well, I know Tak especially Try and Catch, and well, I think he's a motivated driver really, and I reckon he will be able to do well. Maybe be fighting top of the range in midfield or around that kind of area if he sets his mind to it. But I mean, I've been seeing it very often, 2 times actually. Well, one yesterday and today. He's been spinning quite a lot. I mean, I don't know if he's having some problems, but he's everywhere on the track. Sometimes, well, mostly not on the track.
As for Dean Gamer, I believe he runs for No Assist. Of course, if Dean is in the chat, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I saw your time trial around Britain, and you seem to be getting quicker and quicker every day as well, similar to Catboy Key or Kieran. And obviously, you run No Assists, I believe, or something close to that. So, obviously, if someone could answer me that in the chat, obviously, I'm not expecting it, but despite that, I think this partnership could be interesting. But Minty, you seem to know these drivers a little bit more than Cooper. No offense to you, Cooper, but Cooper, you might know these drivers, but you know Tak very well. So is Minty still here? Because Minty keeps going silent.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I think I'm supposed to be jumping up and down.
Perhaps are you aware of these two drivers, and what are your ambitions for them?
I am aware of Try and Catch. I think he also could be up in the championship fight alongside Cam, but he tends to bottle quite a bit. and he has been struggling quite a bit yesterday. He was struggling quite a bit yesterday with his spins. Dean Gaynor, I don't know about him. I don't think he'll be up there, but I think he could be like best of the rest or something.
And Cooper, have you got anything to add to that then?
Yeah, Dean Gamer I don't know much about, so I can't really say much to him, but Tack, same as what Minty said, he bottles a lot, but he can have the pace if he's motivated to do it, and I think he can, may not chance for the title, but best of the rest I think for Tack. That's my prediction for him this year, or this season should I say.
Yeah. And obviously next is McLaren, which I think will allow Minty, because obviously we haven't allowed Minty to say anything about who, like, revealing the team. So I'm going to hand it over to Minty if Minty has got the sheet up with him.
Oh wow, you do McLaren, I'm going to butcher both of their names. So I'm just going to call him Riley, and oh god. Yes! _ Walvis. Nailed that pronunciation.
Sorry.
Oh.
I'm great at this, aren't I? Yeah, so, are you aware of any of these drivers?
Riley was doing decent yesterday in the first session, which I was commentating alongside Sam. He was, I think, 10th or something, which is, I'd say, very good with the drivers we have on the grid right now. Viez Walvis, I think that's his name. I don't think he showed up to pre-season qualifying or testing, whatever you want to call it. So I don't really know much about him.
And similar to you, I think similar to Brett and Cooper as well, I don't think anyone's really seen Wolves's pace too much. I am aware of Riley. I've been racing with him the last 2 days. Well, I raced with him on Friday. He's a pretty decent driver. Similar, I think he fits in more of the midfield, maybe upper midfield of this tier, obviously. But I think maybe we're getting to a point now where you're going to be seeing teams maybe competitively trying to go for victories. And I think Riley and maybe even Wolvers as well. I've seen him on some of the time trials. I was very curious to see, because he was one of the drivers who we did not get a time trial from Britain for, but I have checked other tracks, and I'm very curious to see how he does this season on certain tracks, especially Australia, because it looks like he's pretty decent at Australia, so he could be one to watch out for the start of the season. But as for the whole season, it depends, obviously, but I believe these two are friends in real life, and Brett was, well, he came to Brett and talked to Brett about joining, and I believe it was Riley who sent him here, if I'm correct.
Yes, them two are friends.
Yeah, them two are friends, so hopefully, obviously, no friendship bracelet broke for those two this season. Have you got anything to add on, Brett?
Well, Riley, tons of potential. I mean, on a good day, or on a track that he's very good at, he could be a race winner in this tier, and I think that's just something that we've got to keep an eye out for, because on the day he is good. Of course, we don't know much about Wolvers, but considering he's a friend of Riley, I would say he's either about the similar pace or just a bit off. I don't know though.
Yeah, so none of us are really aware of Wolvers' pace completely, but he's a friend of Riley's, and in my opinion, he looks a similar pace to Riley, so this could be an interesting battle in terms of teammate-wise, who's the better teammate out of the two, and like I said, hopefully it doesn't cause any friendship breakups, but if you know what I mean. Hopefully these two get on this season. Hopefully, obviously, good luck to them, and obviously good luck to the first half of the F3 field, which we have mentioned, so with that, let's just recap who we've gone through so far. So the two Williams boys, which would be D-Boy Dan22 and BJ4215. The two Toro Rosso lads, which is Uwat Baboon J and Catboy Key. The two Alfa Romeos is New Zealand Cam and Callum Anderson 8. The two Racing Points would be P&P Try and Catch and Dean Gamer YouTube. While the two McLarens are Riley and Vice Rolvis. Right, so moving on to our sixth team of F3, which is, of course, Haas F1 team. So, I mean, I could hand this over to Cooper because Cooper has not announced a team yet, so I'll let him announce it.
So yes, in the American team Haas F1, we have Widelow Billy 813 and LK_Ivan. I think that's how you say it.
I think it's Ivan. Of course, correct us if.
Sorry, Ivan, Ivan, how you say it. Yeah, I know these two quite well. Billy's been in lots of leagues that I've been in, and he's not. I don't think he's title worthy, like driver's title worthy. But I could see him getting maybe a podium or two during the season. With Ivan or Ivan, they want to say it. I think he could grab maybe. So with Billy, he can grab a podium or two, maybe even a win for Ivan. I just don't think them two are title-worthy drivers. That's just my personal opinion of what I've seen of them. But I think they could put a good, strong showing together in the season.
Yeah, moving over to Brett, have you got things to add?
Well, LK Van, I've of course been a commentator of one of the tiers he's in. He's a driver that puts in all the effort he can, and it really does show in some of his races. And I would say he will have a few race wins, and if it goes well for him, and if he doesn't get unlucky as he sometimes does, we could possibly be seeing him for the title. But considering the drivers we have in here, obviously, it's going to be quite hard.
Yeah, and Minty?
I have raced with both of the Haas boys before. While with Billy, he kind of dropped off on the new game. So hopefully we can see his form go up again. And Ivan, I think he could rack up some podiums, maybe even a race win in this season, so...
Yeah, so my opinion of these two, first of all with Ivan, I raced with him on Friday nights, and I can say he's a very quick driver, very intelligent driver as well, and he's always fighting for podiums in that tier especially. He's always fighting for podiums, and with a similar driver who we'll get on to later he's very similar to that sort of driver, but I think Ivan... It's a similar case. He will be fighting for podiums, I believe, this season, and maybe even get a win or two. As for Widelow Billy, I know him also as a driver very well. He's a decent driver, you know. He's a decent driver, but he can be that tad aggressive, and obviously may affect the team morale a little bit. But overall, Billy, I think, is a good driver, and similar to Minty, it looks like he has gone off the pace a little bit on this year's game, which is obviously fine. Everyone obviously seems a little bit different on every game, and people could be better on the game or worse. And you know, hopefully this season is the start, which is the start of his confidence, and he's getting his form back. So yeah. So anyone who's got any more words on any of these two drivers?
No.
Okay, so who's next to announce the Renault team?
I'll go for it. So, the yellow of Renault, we have, I was about to announce the F2 ones as I accidentally swiped, but we have Messi01 and SR_just Chris. I think that's a good partnership for Renault. I think both of them quite a similar pace, I would say, and we'll be looking at that kind of midfield constructors and midfield drivers.
I think Messi was an interesting call here because he could have been in F2. I know Messi quite well from last season. He's a little bit slower in my opinion. I can't really get this too much, but he's a little bit slower than Tony and Plix, who I'll get onto later. Obviously, they're where they are, obviously, but Messi was kind of a hard one. We didn't really have too much information from him, and obviously he was not here yesterday for family reasoning, so obviously he's given us a reason, which I thank him for that. Like I said, if anyone does feel a little bit feel like they're unfair in the wrong tier, like Messi maybe is probably the more controversial one for some people. Perhaps, obviously we can, but Messi, he's a decent driver, you know, and I do see him more of a contender for the title this season. And just Chris, I haven't seen him too much, but these drivers I haven't really seen too much of. Messi I saw last year, but most of the races he ended up either in the wall or getting in incidents, and unfortunately he didn't. I don't think he really finished the race at the end of the day. So, like I said, there's not much I could really go off from Messi, and similar to just Chris, I don't really know him too well. So, it depends really on how his pace goes throughout the season. So this could either be a make or break season for the Renault team, in my opinion.
Now, just for clarification for Tony, Messi is in the Renault.
Okay.
We're just talking about him there. But move on to the next car. If Cooper and Minty don't have anything to say about them.
Well,
you go, mate.
I have raced with Messi. He's pretty good. Of course, he was on the edge of going to F2, but we decided to put him in F3. I think he will be up there, as I said, with a lot of these drivers. And just Chris, I haven't seen him race a lot, so I don't really have much to say on him.
Well, Cooper.
Same here. I've never heard of them, never raced with them. I'm sorry, but I can't say anything about them. I just wish them luck for the season ahead.
Well, we know you will know a lot more about the F2 and the F1 drivers.
Yeah, I will.
But we move on to the Red Bull, and I think this is a very good team. I think they're going to work very well. So it is Alls and no future to see in the Red Bull for this season.
Can I go first?
Okay, let's go first then, Cooper.
Alls, I don't know much about, but Future C, I used to race with him, and he used to be like a second quicker than me, like legit. So I'm surprised to see him here. So I think he'll win the title in this F3 division, and I hope he does because he's been a friend of mine. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say really. I think Future will be the champion of this division.
Okay, so moving on, Minty. Anything to say anything about these drivers?
No, not really. Of course, we didn't see no future to see in the practice sessions yesterday. Alls, I have seen him before in other leagues. He's alright. I think Alls could get a podium or two there, so yeah.
And moving on to myself, no futures to see. Similar to Messi, I was kind of surprised, but like I mentioned, I think in the PlayStation chat, people who have seen that, it was impossible sorting out these grids. F1 and F2 especially, but also F2 and F3 is so hard to pick the right grid. And obviously there will be controversial people in here, and like Cooper said, saying that he's like a second quicker almost perhaps, and that he's surprised to see him in this F3 grid. And I agree, Ariane or No Future to See, he's a very quick driver and all, but we kind of struggled to see what his pace and pace is like really, because he didn't show up yesterday. So obviously, like I said earlier in the stream just before we started, take all these with a pinch of salt. I think similar to what Cooper said, I can see No Future to See if he's still in this tier by the end of next week. I can still see him becoming the champion of this. Has Brett got anything to add on, or?
I just think that this lineup is going to be very strong. But I mean, I think that should be us for the Red Bull team.
So moving on to the Ferraris then. So we now have our first TTG driver. We have loads of TTG and VRT drivers to get through, but the first TTG driver here is TTG Vitino. Sorry if I'm saying that, Vitinho, something like that. Apologies again if I've said it wrong. And DRS Aquaplaning in the Ferraris. So who's going to go first? Brett, I'll choose Brett to go first.
Okay, I get chosen to go first again. So, the Ferrari team, TC Vitinho and TRS underscore aquaplaning. I mean, I know Vitinho, and I mean he's decent. He's a good driver. I think he's going to be mid-table for this season. Aquaplaning, on the other hand, I don't know much about, sadly. I don't know if he was in season 1. I can't really remember seeing him, but I mean,
No, he wasn't in season 1.
being in the Ferrari, that's big name on your shoulder, and I wonder what they can do.
And I think Aquaplaning's he's a good driver in my opinion. I haven't seen too much of him, similar to the rest of you, but I think he's a decent driver. Similar with Vitino, I haven't really seen him, if I'm honest, around too much. But I've been told he's a pretty decent driver, and similar to Billy, he's got some aggression to him, which is obviously what we like to see, different driving styles. And I think he could potentially be an upper midfielder, maybe even challenge for a few podiums and maybe even wins. Obviously, Ferrari being the constructor champions of Season 1 in obviously F1, they've got probably a big name to look up to, really, in terms of constructors. Obviously, Ferrari do in general this season, but you know, I think that's an interesting team, and hopefully these two get along as well. And has Cooper or Minty got anything to say about these two, or?
Just like you two, Aquaplanet, I don't really know who he is or what his pace is like. Vitinho, I don't know how you say it. I raced him in one league, and he was. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's championship worthy. Like I said about many drivers, like I reckon he'll get a podium there and then maybe a win, but I don't think he's got that final step to win the title. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for the Ferrari lads.
Yeah, and Minty, have you got anything to say about any of these two?
I have nothing to add because I've never seen them race.
Okay, so moving on to the final team of the F3 grid, it is Mercedes, which maybe a few people already know some of the drivers in contention of this seat. Some people probably saying, "Oh, I'm that seat." Obviously, the last two drivers of F3, and we're going to announce them in 3, 2, 1. So the first driver we're going to announce is PB Racing 77, and the second driver is Azamata. So that is they are the final two drivers for F3. So with that, what are your opinions on these two? I'm going to start with Cooper, see if he's got any opinion on any of these.
I haven't raced with them, but I know roughly what the pace is from what I've seen in other leagues, like on the stream and that. I know PB Racing, he raced in one hub, which is in the Pinnacle tier, which is a really good pace. So I think he could be a title contender. And same with Azmata. I think he's in the title fight in podium tier. So yeah. I think this is a really strong pairing. I think they'll win the constructors, in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe this is a strong pairing as well between these two drivers, and maybe both fighting for the championship as well. But I'm aware of Azamata's pace. In the last two races, I've been racing him in one hub, and he's a very quick driver. Azamata, much quicker than what I am, and like you said, Cooper, I could really see him and PB as well being a title contender this season. PB Racing didn't really have the best sort of reputation in EVR last season. Got in a few incidents, maybe had a little bit of moments with a few drivers, but this season I think he can get his act together. He's still quite young and he's still got a lot of potential ahead of him, and I think this is the way to go. We've decided to put him in this F3 grid, and you've probably seen a trend here. A lot of these people are quite young, and it's probably going to help them morale-wise, maybe like fighting for a title or something may help them morale-wise, and obviously it'll give them a lot of challenging battles and challenges ahead to help them, and I think PB Racing will take this to his advantage and maybe go on to win this title, as you said, Cooper. Moving on with Brett. What are your thoughts on these two drivers, this partnership?
I'd say it's the strongest pairing we have on the F3 grid, to be honest. Azimatter has the pace to win lots of podium tier races in one hub, and I think that's important, to be honest. And once this guy gets out in front, there's no catching him. He's very quick when he's in the lead, and that's something you have to just look at is if you're going to take the lead of a race, can you hold it? Because it's one of the most challenging things you will experience in league racing, and to keep the confidence and keep a clean head, really. PB Racing, I mean, young, talented, and would be very quick in this year, so I think this is going to be maybe the constructors team.
Minty, have you got any words on these two drivers?
Well, as a matter, it was a difficult decision because we were debating whether to put him in F2 or F3. I think Merck have the best lineup on the grid right now. PB Racing, he's good in qualifying, but his race pace has to get better, in my opinion. You could do a bit of work on that, so I'm finished.
Yeah. Okay. So leave your thoughts in the chat, guys. We'll be back with F2 in a few seconds. We'll just see what your guys' opinions are. Just leave your opinions in the chats. What are your things about obviously drivers who have been announced so far? What are your opinions about your teammates? What team you're in? And just leave us a note what you think about the lineups.
TSR 0. Evening. He just joined the chat.
So, anyone else who is going? Right. So Merck looks very strong, says Ivan. Speed Cooper, which I think is Cooper. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that is you, Cooper, who's put that message. Tim should be in F4. Oh, this is a joke. This is a joke we've been having a long time, and Cohen agrees with Cooper. Of course, this is a long time joke, but I can assure you, Tim, you are not in obviously the beloved F4 or something. That is not a thing. Why we've started with F3. Anybody else? Reaction to what tier you're in, teammate, and what team?
Well, if you can just quickly run through that, Sam, all the drivers and teams.
Oh yeah, let's run through the teams. So if you've just joined us or if you forgot, starting off with Williams, we'll move up. So in the Williams, we've got D-Boy Dan, 22. You've got and BJ4215. In the Toro Rosso, you've got Uwop Baboon J and Catboy Key. In the Alfa Romeo, you have New Zealand Cam and Callum Anderson. In Racing Point, you have PMP Try and Catch and Dean Gamer. In McLaren, you have Riley and Walvis. Apologies if I've said that wrong. The both of you, of course. In the Haas, we have LK Ivan and Wide Load Billy. In the Renault, we have Messi 15101 and Just Chris. And in the Red Bull, we have Ols and No Future to See. In the Ferrari, we have TTG, Vitinho, and Aqua Planning. And in the Mercedes, to wrap it off, we have PB Racing 77 and Azamata. So, should we move on to F2 then?
Yes, I think we should. Very strong F3 tier, but on to F2.
On to F2. And to start us off, I'll probably start us off with the Williams, obviously, like we have, and we'll move up to Mercedes at the end. So, starting off with Williams, we do have Danestar _ and TTG It's Cohen. What are your thoughts on this team, starting off with Minty?
It's a very strong lineup, like most of the teams in F2. I think Cohen could get podiums. Danestar, I haven't seen a lot of him, but from the practice that we've done, I think he's good, but he needs to get rid of the bottles that he can do.
Yeah. Right, moving on to Brett. What are your thoughts about this partnership?
Well, as many of the teams in F2, obviously, very strong. Dade and Cohen. They keep saying they're the ones to beat, but are they? When, to be honest, I don't know who's going to win the F2 grid this season. It is
so
just
close.
that close.
Yeah, it's very close, and there's other teams obviously that we've mentioned. Like, I look at this F2 lineup, and I'm like, I don't know who's going to win the drivers. I don't know who's going to win the constructors. There are many people who we could consider. Moving on with not Cohen, Cooper. Do you know these two drivers well? And what are your thoughts about this team lineup?
Yeah, I've raced with Cohen a few times. I'd say he's about my pace. Though I'll be home to battle him a few times this season. Oh shit! Sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. Dangstar. Yeah, he's got really good pace, but he tends to bottle. So. I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh, that's alright. No worries, obviously.
Actually go for it. Oh shit. Right.
It's a good pairing. I don't think they're win constructors, but I can see him getting a few podiums throughout the season.
Good salvage.
Yeah,
Good salvage. Good salvage.
Oh my god.
Moving on to the Toro Rosso. So we have Wahlberg and SLR underscore AJ underscore F1. Now, AJ got to be one of the quickest guys in this tier, if not. And I just think if anyone's going to be a title contender, it's really going to be him. I mean, he is up there with some of the guys that will be in F1.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget Warbeck as well. Maybe not showing the pace right now, but he has, I believe, transferred over to Wheel in the last couple of months. So he's really starting to pick up the pace. And yesterday he did tell me, and I do thank him for showing up for it. And he was a little bit ill, so he may not have been setting the fastest lap time he can do. And like I said, we'll find out next week, perhaps, if he is too fast for the tier or obviously too slow. And obviously that all applies to everyone else in all tiers, but this partnership is an interesting one because I've not really seen much of AJ. Brett, I believe, is good friends of AJ and knows him pretty well for his pace and everything. Walbieg last season was in EPR and he raced in quite a few races, and he was quite a quick driver in my opinion, and I think he could be challenging for podiums and wins in this tier, and I think this Toro Rosso lineup could be a very strong lineup, and if these two play the team game correctly, I think the constructors could be theirs as well. Minty, have you got anything to say about these two drivers?
AJ, I haven't seen a lot of from him, but according to you guys, he'd be up there trying to win races, while Wahlbeek, I know he is okay in qualifying, but he's very consistent in the race. He doesn't tend to mess up, so I think they could be around the best of the rest. I don't think they could win the constructors, but
and I'm not sure if I've come to Cooper, but Cooper, would you like to add anything on there? And watch yourself, please.
Yes. AJ. I raced him in a mini league once, and he had really good down pace. So I think he'll be a title contender, like Brett said. I think Brett said that. And Wolbieg, I'm not sure his pace, so I can't really say much about him. But I think it'll be a solid pairing. I think AJ's a strong contender for the title.
Well, anything else to add on, anybody, or shall we move on to Alfa Romeo?
Let's move on.
Okay, we'll move on to Alfa Romeo then. And the lineup for these two, maybe a little bit of a controversial one going by the timings, but SJ Racing and Nexus Chaos. Nexus Chaos, you may not be aware, is new here, and we believe his pace is good enough for F2, which obviously we'll find out next week. And SJ Racing was setting the times yesterday. Well, obviously he wasn't here yesterday, but he gave me his time. And maybe it's a little bit controversial he's in F2 because he was one of the quicker lads. I believe he finished in the top half, but we had to take into consideration that was offline and set in a Mercedes car on Grand Prix mode. So, Sam or SJ, if you're listening, that is a potential reason why. But we're in the Alfa Romeo. It's an interesting team, Alfa Romeo, this season for both F2 and F3. But F2, what are your guys' opinion on these two drivers? Starting off with Brett.
Well, Nexus Chaos, he's a driver that's been around for quite a while now. And, I mean, I know him personally. He's decently paced. I think he's going to be finishing top 5s, maybe top 7, best of the rest, maybe. But I would like to see him maybe grab like, a podium or 2 this season. But we don't know, it's that close that literally you can make a tiny mistake on track and it could cost you more than 1 place in the title fight. So moving on to SJ Racing, I mean this guy has gained so much pace so quickly and the potential is amazing at the moment, and it's just to think from here in pre-season next week, where is he going to be by the end of the season?
Well, if he's in F2, I really can see him battling for the title. I have a lot of aspiration for this guy, and when he first contacted me about joining the league, he said, I believe in his bio at the time, he may even still have it, it's basically he's just stating that he wants to make it to the top, and he's very ambitious, and obviously that ambition is shown, but I think he could definitely be a contender, and obviously same with Nexus Chaos. I don't know him too much. I'm not aware of him too much, but I believe that Nexus Chaos can definitely fight SJ Racing for the drivers' battle, but obviously I think SJ Racing is definitely one of the guys to watch out for in the season. Moving on with Minty. Have you got anything to say about these drivers?
I think it's going to be close between them, but I don't think they're going to be quite up there. I think they're going to be like best of the rest, like finishing around 5th, 6th, something like that. I think they're going to sneak in a couple of podiums, but I think they're going to finish around 4th in the constructors or somewhere around that.
Yeah. Cooper, have you got anything to add on with that?
I'm not sure about SJ Racing, what his pace is like. I've raced with Nexus Chaos a couple of times. He's a no assist driver, so he's very skilled. He's got good pace as well, but I don't think he's got that championship worthy in him. So I think he'll have a solid season. I think. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say really. Sorry, Chaos.
Yeah. So, has anyone got anything else to say about this partnership?
No, I don't.
Okay, so moving on then to the Racing Points, and this is, in my opinion, the team that is probably going to be the hardest team to beat.
I agree.
And can everyone agree on me with this? This is probably going to be the best team out of everyone, in my opinion, for personal, but in general. So we can all agree on that. Obviously, other teams will be good enough, but the team for Racing Point will be TTG Westy and PMP Casse G. Obviously, like I said, provisional, but these two drivers are very close. It was a very, very tough decision, like SJ Racing, whether they're going to be in F1 or F2. And obviously, it's very close between these two as well, as championship rivals, in my opinion, for the title. All 3 of the drivers, and obviously everyone else as well. Like I said, it's really unpredictable what F2 is looking. But these two, very close drivers in my opinion. They're very close friends as well, and they wanted to be teammates with each other in this car. And it could be very, very, it could be very interesting, this partnership. So I'm going to start with Minty. I'm sure you're aware of both these two.
I am, and I think they're going to win the constructors. I don't think they're going to do it comfortably like the Ferraris did in season 1, but I think there's going to be a lot of 1-2s from Racing Point.
Yeah. Brett?
I think it's the team to beat. Saying that though, I don't think it's not going to be easy for them. But I think the bigger fight really is going to be between that title fight, because I mean, I see tons of individual drivers that have or are capable of winning it, and I just feel Westy and Cassie, they're going to be one of the two of the strongest drivers, but then with the rest of the lineup, it's not going to be as easy as some people might think.
And obviously these two drivers very quick races in other leagues, and obviously they're, like we said, they're one to watch. Cooper, have you got anything to add on with this?
I do think they are beatable. There are drivers in this tier that could beat them. The thing with these two are they're very consistently, like, not bottling, good pace, good racecraft. So I think they're definitely one of the few teams definitely up for contention for the title. Between the two, I think we're still edge out Cass G. So it's going to be very tight, and they're two drivers to look out for, and a team as one.
Yeah. So does anyone have anything else to add on, or can we move on to the two McLarens?
We sure can.
Okay, so we can move on. I'm actually going to allow Cooper to announce this for certain reasons. He will find out in a second, obviously.
So yeah, in the McLaren we have TCG_King J and the one and only Flying_Cooper F1. This team is going to win constructors. One of us will win the title, the driver's title. I'm just going to put out there right now.
Okay, yeah.
King J, I don't know who he is, to be fair. I've got a really
have you heard of Jorrit 99?
Oh, is that him?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, he's got good pace, you know. Okay. Yeah, I think we can. I don't think we're contenders for either title, to be fair. But I think we can get maybe a podium there or two during the season, pick up valuable points. I think we'll be a mid constructors team and a mid drivers. I don't think we'll be in danger being at the bottom, but I don't think we'll be near the top. So I think we can have a good, positive but not negative season. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, King J, Minty knows very well, so I'm actually going to move on to Minty. What do you think about this lineup, obviously including Cooper as well?
Cooper, the one and only, as he said. I only saw him last season. He is a good driver. I think he will be up there. King J also used to be known as Jorrit 99. I used to race with him. He was very consistent. He wasn't like dominating. He wasn't top 3, but he was just so consistent. He didn't bottle at all, so I think that will really help him in the championship.
Brett, got anything to add on to that?
Well, I mean, we know Jorrit is going to have a decent season, but one of the things that is very definite between this McLaren team is Cooper is going to be bottom.
You're correct.
But being serious, McLaren looking like a team that could be in the top 5 for constructors this season, and I think that's what they'll be aiming for. I don't see any of them really being in a championship fight, but I do see some of them putting a big fight up during the races.
Yeah, I also as well, and like I said, Flying Cooper and Jorrit, obviously Cooper's with us, so I could have just said just Cooper, but I think this is, they have the chance for podiums, maybe even for wins as well, if they're lucky, in my opinion. I feel like these two, though, could be very strong in terms of maybe finishing in the top 4, maybe being best of the rest, like Minty has used quite a lot tonight. I think this is a team that probably probably will finish best of the rest because, like I said, there's strong lineups on this grid and there's still more to come. So, halfway through the F2 grid, well, just recap. So in the Williams, we have Dane Star _ and TTG _ it's Cohen. We have in the Toro, so we have SLR AJF1 with Wolbieg, and in the Alpha we have SJ Racing and Nexus Chaos. In the Racing Point we have TTG Westy and PMP Casse G. In the McLaren we have Flying Cooper F1 and TTG King J. So who would like to announce the Haas team?
I'll go for
I'll
it.
go for it.
Oh, Cooper's going for it. Cooper's going for it.
I've got a lot of things to say about Jamie. Right. So in the Haas we have Jamie Morris 02 and Dan _Lutonian. Don't know much about Dan. I've raced him once in one hub and I was slightly ahead of him, which is a good thing, I hope. So I think I'll be banning him a few times this season. And Jamie Morris, where do I start? He has good pace, but he gets involved in too much incidents on track and off track, which could affect him. I do think he's got race wins in him, but he tends to bottle a lot, so I just don't think he's got that driver title material in him. But he's a solid driver. If he cuts out the mistakes, I don't see why he can't challenge for the top 3 of the championship, to be honest.
Yeah.
As a team, I could see him a mid-table like McLaren. That's what I've got to say about that team.
Moving on with Brett, what have you got to say about these two?
Well, I'm just gonna say that we need to quickly move on and get a bit quicker. But Jamie Morris, of course, setting a very good time last night, and it was discussed that we thought maybe F1, the race pace side of things, might have been just a bit too quick for him, and they might have enjoyed F2 more. And I think since with the new controller and everything, with F2, I think later in the season he's really going to click, and you might start seeing him battling the top 3.
I could definitely see Jamie doing that, and Dan as well. Dan's a pretty quick driver. He had a few issues with attendance last year. He has pledged to me, though, he'll sort that out this season, so it'll be interesting to see. And in this F2 grid, obviously, as you've seen so far, all the teams are very, very close. But moving on, I think we've got words from Minty, have we, or not? Does Minty have anything to add to it quickly?
Well, Ex-Dan, he has problems with attendance, so hopefully he can stop that. And Jamie Morris, he's a bit of a K-Mag. Kevin Magnussen, he tends to get involved in a lot of incidents, so he should cut that out.
Okay, so moving on to Renault, which could be the other title contender team so far, and that will be the team of Gavin YouTube and Tim Wenting42.
No F4, that's sad.
No, let that sink in. Oh, Tim's went, oh no.
Yeah.
So it looks like, I mean, Tim really one of the two, of Gavin or Tim, really wanted to be an F1.
Well, Tim did, especially. Gavin didn't really mind too much. Gavin said he actually wants to battle for the title in F2 this season. He wants the prize at the end, which we haven't covered yet. All F1, F2 and F3 champion will get a trophy. If you haven't seen Midnight's trophy, it'll be the same one as that, but a little bit smaller, obviously, because obviously we want to keep that prestige from F1. But back to the team then. Where do you see these two guys then in the season? Beginning with Brett.
Well, Tim and Gavin, they're the ones that will be really fighting Cassie and West, I believe. And I mean, it's just a case of will they have the maturity to win the constructors title and possibly one of them get a driver's title. I mean, it's going to be so close for this F2 title. I mean, the thing is, we haven't even announced that I have a mental voice crack. We haven't even announced some of the other teams, and all I'm gonna say is we have a few people that could also be fighting for titles. So
Yeah.
it seems like we're saying it every team, but we are being serious when we say it. This is gonna be one of the most competitive leagues out there.
And obviously competitive grids as well. Like Brett said, we need to move on. So has Minty or Cooper got any last words?
No, not really.
No, I don't.
Okay, you had a long time to think, but moving on to Red Bull then, and this is another team that could be fighting for constructors, and one of the drivers especially should be fighting for the drivers' championship, in my opinion. Both these drivers could do also. First of all, I'm going to announce the two-time race winner last year, I'm a D, in the Red Bull car. Again, like last season, but this time in F2, not in F1. And the other driver to partner alongside him is Matthew 40. Any thoughts of you guys? These two are massive. Once again, shows the competitiveness of F2.
I mean, it was a strange one for Matt. I mean, we know he's up there on pace especially, but I think it might be cool to see him in F2 this season, fight against some of these drivers. I think it's going to just make it that much more competitive. I was talking about how many people could be fighting for a title. I mean, we could be looking at about 6 to 8 drivers.
Yeah, exactly. Look how close this grid is, and some of you may know these names, some of you may not. If you look at last season, you can see Matt, Gavin, Tim. Obviously, you may see Dan on and off. You may see also a few others who we've mentioned as well, and they're really, really quite quick. And in my opinion, Red Bull, similar to Renault, and I believe the Racing Point, they really should be going for the constructors' titles. And obviously, Matt and I'm a D both have intentions to win the driver's title as well. So, Red Bull is a top team. Any thoughts from Cooper and Minty? Starting with Cooper.
I've raced with them twice last season. I was actually quicker than them, I think, in quali in 2 league races. But they had better race pace than me, so I think they will. I hope to battle them a little bit, but I think they'll be just a bit quicker than me. I think they could put a strong showing together. I don't think they're constructors worthy or driver worthy, but I think they'll be best of the rest, in my opinion.
And Minty, any last words on that?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, of course, IMD was a race winner last season, 2-time race winner, so it could be quite controversial. Also, Matt, he nearly won at Monza.
And at Bahrain, let's not forget.
Oh yeah, so that's going to be a very interesting team. I think they could challenge Westy and Cass in the Racing Point.
Well, moving forward then, Fran and Will G will be in the Ferrari. That was quite... I didn't really do that quite set. So the Ferrari team is VRT Fran, or Frane, apologies if I'm saying that incorrectly, and TTG Will G. 2 controversial drivers because both of them are really, really quick, and again with the other drivers as well, very, very close for the Constructors' title. The 2 Ferrari drivers, and similar to the F3 grid, they have a lot of pressure on them, don't they, to prove a point?
I mean, we know how close. I mean, Will in, for instance, Pinnacle tier of One Hub is fighting Westy and Cassie, and I think won the last race out. And I think this is going to really show that it's not just going to be between Westy and Cassie, it's going to be between Will and possibly Frame, because I know how quick he is. He's just sadly not been able to race for a while, and to be honest, came back and set a decent lap yesterday.
Yeah, and obviously, just everyone so far, and obviously we just need to get onto Mercedes, but everyone so far has just been so close in this tier, and you can look at some of the names. You can really turn around and say that there are about 8, maybe even 9 or even 10 contenders so far. There are so many people who have a point to prove. Maybe going on for the championship constructors and drivers wise. Minty or Cooper, have you got anything to add on to these comments?
I have one thing to say. TC Will G. I know I said AJ was my predicted champion, but I've just seen his name in F2, and I think he could be well the champion. Him and AJ, I think I'm going to see exciting battle at the front. It's going to be really tight. Like you said, 10 people could win it, but looking at the grid on paper, I think Will G and AJ are favourites for me.
Yeah, and well, so Minty, have you got any last few words before we get on to our final team of F2?
I don't.
Okay, so our final team then, Mercedes, the top team in real life, but where will they be in F2 and EVR? Well, we're now about to find out. It is the two French drivers of Tony First and Plix 6, good mates, and I mean, will it come to an advantage for them being good mates? And obviously the two drivers being representing the Mercedes, which should be the top team in this tier. But do you think, this is just a question in general, do you think drivers having a good, I guess, friendship or a good note of each other, do you think that's a good thing or potentially a bad thing?
I think in league racing it's never really a bad thing. I personally think it leads you to focusing on more overall points than just your own points. I mean, I don't think this will hold them out. I think this will actually propel them forward for this season and allow them to fight for bigger battles, really.
And obviously, you've seen the grid so far. I think Tony and Plix are definitely up there and have contention to definitely fight with the top guys, especially Tony, who he has the pace, so I definitely am aware of his pace, and he's one of the faster guys, in my opinion, on this grid if you look at one lap pace, but race pace, he hasn't really been showing it too much last season, and this season he comes into this season probably prepared probably more than last season, if I'm honest, and it could be an interesting lineup. So has Cooper or Minty got anything to add?
I do. The French boys, of course, again in the Mercedes. I think they're going to be fighting for podiums. They're quick. I don't think they're going to challenge the Racing Point, the Ferrari or the Red Bull. No offense to them, but as I say a lot, I think they're going to be best of the rest.
Yeah, and Cooper, you got anything to add, or?
I agree with what Minty said. I don't think they've got driver material for the title, but I think they could definitely challenge for the constructors, maybe, because they're both consistent drivers. They're both solid, but they don't have that final step, which I think they need to be championship material for the drivers. So I think they've a good season. Maybe I reckon 4th, 5th, something like that in the constructors. So I think they do well, but I just don't think they've got a final step in them.
Yeah, and obviously F2 being very, very close. You can't really call what team will win the constructors, or although you say, Cooper, your favourites are Will and AJ, I just don't know who to pick really as my champion. There are so many selections, such a big selection to choose from, but anyway, so F2 is now completed. We need to move on obviously to F1 now. And with that, has anyone got any reactions in the chat? Just leave them down there. We'll take a look, obviously, in a minute or so, just afterwards. So we move on to the F1 grid, the top grid, the elite grid, the top grid of the league, of course. So, first of all, we have the team of Williams. So, I mean, there's a little bit of a drum roll here, but it's the team of VRT Chapelele and VRT Midnight, your champion in the Williams.
Well, this was one of the requests from the two. They wanted to be in the Williams, and we put them in the Williams. I think this is I think you're seeing in a lot of leagues where the former champion goes in the bottom car, and I think Cohen was calling it the toothpaste car earlier. So I think this is, obviously we know this is a good pairing, but it's just they can go for constructors, but it's a case of can Shapalele bring the points in. And that's the thing, it's like, if he, as he has the nickname Bottle, if he doesn't bottle, he could be a title contender. I mean, we know he can, and he probably should have last season.
I can add to that as well. Shap he had the pace, and obviously he got a race win a pretty dominant race win in Britain last season. But obviously, like you said, he's made a lot of mistakes, especially in the race, and he's been quite unfortunate in some of them. But mainly, it's most of the time he's just been spinning. He's been getting wing damage, and obviously that famous moment in China where he spun and obviously hit into the wall. That was probably one of the moments which really solidified where Shap will probably be ending up in the season. Probably, I guess, told the story of the season so far from that point, and told the whole story of the rest of the season. But Midnight, obviously the champion, obviously he's defending his crown, and I'm telling you now, looking at the drivers we've got ahead to talk about, there is a lot of competition. So, has Cooper or Minty got anything to add to this team lineup?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things to say. Midnight's current champion. I still think he has a good chance of retaining it. He's a quality driver. It's going to be much harder this season though, than last year. So there's much more competition in it. With Shapalele, his life is league racing, so he has a lot of time to get the practice in. I expect him to be up there fighting. I think, looking at the lineups, I think they could be constructors champions quite easily. Yeah. I think. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about the VRT lads.
Yeah, so Minty, anything to add on?
It's going to be interesting seeing Midnight, Season 1 champion, our first ever champion, in the Williams. I think Shapalele will be doing a Valtteri Bottas working as a wingman, no offense to him. He of course bottles a lot, so yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the Williams team. Obviously, potential title contenders this season. Obviously, if Shap keeps it out of the wall and if Midnight can continue his pace that he had last season, which I'm sure he will. Moving on to the Toro Rossos here, we have the partnership of Sem12 _ 2004 and Lewis 11004. This is an interesting lineup in the Toro Rosso, and I'm going to ask Brett first because Brett has experience probably more out of anyone racing with Lewis.
Well, Lewis, he's a bit like Shap in a way, bottles a lot, but on his day he is very quick, and race pace especially he can be there. He's just an all-round driver, I would say, against with a teammate of Sim, who is also very experienced, but also has a lot of potential on board, like growing so much over just a couple months. It's been huge for him, and I think it's going to be cool to see where he ends up this season. I don't think it'll be kind of a title winning area, but I do see him pulling off a few podiums.
And I think Lewis can do the same as Sam, though. Sam's an interesting one in my opinion, because when you look at Sam, he doesn't really have too much to his name in terms of you don't really see him in the top leagues or anything. Maybe a lot of people don't really know him too well, but I can assure you that Sam is a very quick driver, and he was with us towards the end of last season. and he was battling for a podium in Belgium, which was one of the, well, probably the best race of the season, obviously, and most controversial at the end there. That famous moment with Dylan and Midnight, which may have been a title decider at the end of the day, but let's not talk about that too much. Sem, obviously, a very quick driver and fighting for a podium with maybe, I believe, one of the drivers who we're yet to mention in this tier. Lewis, like Brett said, he's kind of similar to Shap. He's a very fast driver and he's got potential to really put in performances and maybe even get a win or two this season. But, I mean, similar to Shap, he has that tendency to lose the car quite a bit, and maybe that will bite him right at the end there, which is unfortunate. Has Cooper or Minty got anything to say about this?
Yeah, I do. One sec. Shit, sorry. There we are. Lewis and Sem. Lewis has really, really good pace. He's young. He's got good potential ahead of him. Sem. I raced him twice last season. He has good pace. I think he will struggle in F1 though. I hate to break it to him. Looking at the current grid, I think he'll struggle a bit. But he could prove me wrong, and he could get some good valuable points. That's all I'll say.
So nothing left to add. We'll move on to the Alpha then, and this team lineup could be a potentially good one. And obviously, we know that one of those drivers topped the standards. You can guess who it was. There was 3 drivers, obviously, who topped the standards. But the person who we're looking at is Josh M97, and he will be teammate partnership with TTG Vaporon. So a very interesting partnership, in my opinion. And what are your guys' thoughts about this partnership?
Another great one. Of course, Vaporon and Josh very, very quick drivers, and well, Jordan, as we know, which is Vaporon, is one of them drivers that I think could be a title contender. If you're looking at somebody, he's a guy to look at. Same with Josh. Josh is very, very quick, and I think this may possibly be the team for constructors.
Very close team, but obviously we've got a few teams ahead and a few teams that, in my opinion, kind of send a blind eye to me about this team. But this team, I think, I agree with Brett. If they get things together and get things in the right order and they can get consistency going from the both of them, I really do see a Constructors title on for them. Cooper or Minty, anything to add?
I do. Josh, of course, impressed us with his yesterday practice sessions. He did very good there. Vaporeon, I didn't see a lot from him, so I don't know how he'll do. I think he's gonna be good. I think they're gonna be a midfield team getting some podiums. Josh could maybe be up there, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, and Cooper, you got anything to say? We seem to have lost Cooper. So we're going to move on then to the racing points, and the team we're and VFG Luke. So this is a very interesting team in my opinion. So beginning with Brett, what do you see in this team? What do you see about this team?
What do I see? I see a team that will be midfield comfortably. I think they're just going to pull out the results they need to. In this team is Fruitful Coot and VFG Luke. Now Luke put out a very good performance in the qualifying session last night, and from what I know from Fruitful Coot, is he is one of the quickest drivers I know on race pace.
Minty, have you got anything to add on these two drivers?
Well, unlike in F3 and F2, I don't think they'll be challenging for the title. But it's still a good lineup. I don't see them at the bottom, but I don't see them up the top. I think they'll be comfortably in the midfield.
Right, so, well, about these drivers, I've seen Luke recently. I haven't seen so much of Fruitful, but Luke, I'm definitely aware of. He's quite a rapid driver, and I've seen him in leagues with assists on and off, and he can do both just as quick. And I think, in my opinion, this man really has a good chance at maybe causing a surprise this season. I'm not sure of his age, but he looks like a very quick driver. He concentrates very well, and I think he deserves this spot in F1. And obviously, like I said, a very quick driver, very, I guess, passionate, I guess, and probably happy that he's in F1 because he's really impressed us over the last couple of days, especially yesterday with a very good performance, as Minty said. So we move on to the McLarens, and in my opinion, this is probably the team, in my opinion, that could take the constructors. It's the two NSX drivers of the league, NSX Montana and NSX Lion. So, starting off with Brett, what are your thoughts on this lineup?
Well, I mean, NSX Montana, he's, some would say, the favourite for F1, and, well, followed with his teammate, NSX Lions. I mean, this is going to be a very, very strong pairing. I'm sure both of these talk to each other quite a lot, as they both are in the same esports team. So, I mean, I think McLaren could really be the team to beat, but then considering you have the Williams, the Alfa Romeo looking like the top team that we've announced at the moment, I think nothing is for certain. We don't know until these first few races go by.
Obviously, everything could change. Attendance as well. Like, obviously, this isn't a job, is it? League racing, basically. You don't have to attend. You don't. Well, we would obviously want you to attend, but it's not a thing. It's a thing where if life gets in the way, you'll have to miss certain events, and it could obviously be a decider at the end of the day. But obviously, these two drivers, very quick drivers, very loyal drivers to their league as well, and like I said about Montana and Lion as well, both very quick drivers. Both qualifying pace and race pace. And, I mean, they've got the package and could really help. And I believe Cooper is back. So if Cooper could just... Hello. Yes, he is back. So are you aware of the McLaren team in F1? And what are your thoughts on it?
Wow. The NSX lads, Montana is definitely a driver worthy of winning the title. I've seen him in multiple leagues. He's in League of Europe, I think, Division 1 champion, which is a very strong grid. So I expect him to be fighting drivers from this competitive grid. Yeah, Lion, don't know much about Lion, haven't seen him race before. Not sure his pace like, but he's in F1. So he's also very quick and maybe can fight the podiums.
And obviously, both the NXS guys are very, very fast indeed. But we must move on, as we've got limited time left. We must move on, and we move on to Haas then, which is the team of Just Groningen. Apologies if I've not said that correct. And Lorman's double underscore in the Haas. So, what are your thoughts on this lineup, guys?
I'll go first. Lawman's, he's a good friend of mine. I talk to him sometimes. He's got good pace. He's what's the thing? He's not the slowest here, but he's not the fastest. I can see him maybe going a podium or two during the season. I expect him to score consistent points throughout the season as well. Juice Groningen, got nothing to say about him, I don't know who he is. Sorry, Groningen. But he's F1. Like I said about Lion, he's in F1, so he also has good pace, and I expect him to be near the top.
Brett, have you got anything to say about this too?
Well, from what I've seen from Just Groningen, there we go, and Lorman's, well, just rapid. Last night was absolutely rapid. I didn't expect any of that, setting one of the highest times, if not the highest, I'm not sure. Lorman's, of course, coming back from PC, to now PS4. It would be quite cool to see him come back, and I think it's going to really be if you're going to see him grow again over the season and become a very good driver again.
Yeah. So, Minty, have you got any point to add?
Well, it's going to be an interesting lineup. I think Yost topped one of the sessions. I think so. I'm not too sure about that, but they're going to be fighting in the constructors, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, where is the F1? I've lost the lineup. There we go. So, the Renaults then. This is another team to definitely beat, in my opinion. It is Zakart 6. Minty's made a typo there with Zakart 9, but it's Zakart 6. And VRT Raikkonen, which is VRT Raikkonen 7 as well. But, yeah, so these two, it's a very strong lineup, isn't it, the two Renaults?
I'll go. No, let's win. Zakar, I don't know much about him. Can't really say much about him though. Raikkonen, he joined VLT about a month ago, and I've seen him race a couple of times in other leagues, and he's been fine for the wins in like highly competitive leagues. So I expect him to be fighting for the title, in my opinion. He's one of the 5 or 6, I think, who have a really good chance. Yeah,
and obviously, I think this is a very strong team and maybe constructors worthy as well. But Minty, have you got anything to add about this team?
It's going to be a really good team. Of course, Zakart set his lap times on the mediums, so that didn't show his true pace. And Raikkonen, I saw him in other leagues, he's a beast. So they're going to do really good, in my opinion.
Brett, anything to add?
I think this is going to be one of the strongest teams. I think I agree with Cooper. Raikkonen is going to be one of the title contenders. I think he's going to be the biggest fight against Montana. It's
not
getting bad, boys. It's not going well tonight. You should have seen me yesterday. But Raikkonen, obviously, got to be up there. I'm losing my voice right now. Zakar, he's a strange one, because we don't know his exact pace, we just know he's very quick.
Right, so we must move on, because we've been doing this for an hour and a half. We must move on. We move on to the two Red Bull drivers. That is the lineup of VRT Aero and the man himself, VRT Brett. So, starting off with Brett, what do you think about this pairing?
Well, I think me and Aero gonna be completely serious. I think we've just got to kind of look at bringing in the points, bringing in some podiums, and I'm saying we're looking at top 5 in constructors. That's our aim.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as well. Anyway, carry on, Cooper. Sorry.
Oh, okay. If we're going to be honest, I don't think any of you two... Well, I'm not 100% know Aero's pace, but I don't think you two are drivers champion material. But I think you could grab a couple of podiums along the way with valuable points. I just hope you two are consistent and don't bottle, because I think this could be a serious repairing. That's all I've got to say, really.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to continue to move on very quickly because we're running out of time very much. Moving on to the two Ferraris then. This one is definitely ones to watch this season. Dylan Warren, who stays in the Ferrari, obviously, for the season. Obviously, last year's runner-up, very close between him and Midnight, went down to the final day. Unfortunately, it wasn't the race of dreams, but he'll be teaming up with HSV Freak, which, if you're not aware who this is, this was formerly known as Lyronix. Obviously, both very, very quick drivers on their day, and obviously very good chance at constructors and drivers. Beginning with Minty, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be interesting seeing Dylan back in the Ferrari. He is, of course, runner-up the championship last season. He'll try to get the championship this season. HSV_freak. I forgot who that is. If you could remind me who that is, because
That is Lyronix.
Lyronix. He's very good. I think Ferrari could be one to get the constructors title.
Right, moving on with Brett. What have you got to say about this lineup?
I think it's really just one of them teams that's Lyronix being very quick, Dylan being very quick. I mean, though Dylan was second last season, I don't know if he's going to be able to pull something like that off again. He's coming up against now very, very, very experienced drivers, very quick drivers. It's just, I don't see him being as close as he was. But with Lyronix on the other hand, he's experienced and knows his way around the F1 community, and I think that's going to really help him for this season.
And obviously, I think that this team is obviously very close. Cooper, have you got?
They're two very different drivers. I've raced with them. I've raced with them a couple of times, especially Lyronix. Dylan, he's a bit of a time trial merchant, in my opinion. When it comes to the actual race, he tends to bottle it quite a lot. But in time trial, he's like top 50 in most tracks.
I wouldn't say he bottles it.
He bottles it all the time, let's face it. Lyronix, or HV's Freak, he's one of the most consistent drivers I've ever witnessed in the racing. He will never give up to the final step. He's very consistent. He won't. Even if he's like a lap down, he will go right to the end. Even if it's just for 1 point, because every point counts in the end. And 1 point could be the difference in the constructors or drivers' championship. So you shouldn't give up. And I think Ferrari got a very solid team there.
Right, so I'm guessing no one's got any last words for that before we move on to our final team of tonight. So I'm going to get on with that then. So the final team of the night, obviously Mercedes, and the two, if you are still watching, obviously the two drivers who I'm going to mention, you probably know who you are, but the team lineup for Mercedes, and with, in my opinion, no real surprise, you've got Alpamut K and TTG Thomas 5. What do you think about this lineup?
I'll go first. Thomas, I don't know how you say his name. I've seen him race a couple of competitive leagues, and like Raikkonen, he's got wins in competitive leagues. So what I said about Raikkonen is he could fight for the title. I think he's got to be consistent. Make sure he doesn't bottle quali. Quali is very important. Alp Humuk, if they say his name. I've never ever heard of him before, so. I saw him in the what do you call it? The qualifying session. Was it yesterday or today? Can't remember. It was yesterday. Yesterday. he set a really good time. So I think it's a solid team. I think they could definitely challenge for constructors. That's all I've got to say about them, really. I think they've got a good team there, and I think they'll do
well. Brett, what are your thoughts on this team?
I think the Merc team is going to be decent. Alp in the comments, just telling Cooper just to call him Alp. And, well, Thomas, Alp, they didn't choose a teammate, they didn't choose a team, I don't think. But I think Merc is going to suit them. I really do. I think it's the team that's going to look right for both of them. And I think as a team together, they will be able to do very well in the championship.
And I think so as well. And obviously we know Thomas was the fastest man out of everyone. He was obviously the fastest man on the F1 grid out of everyone, going by the results yesterday. Alp was one of the fastest as well, but Minty, if you got any final words before we obviously wrap this up, because it's been an hour and a half, everyone's probably tired now of listening to our voices, but
I think they could do really good in the constructors, and I think Thomas could fight for the championship here in the first year.
Yeah, so I believe Brett is streaming, so Brett can wrap this all up. But just to remind you of this F1 grid, just before we go, TTG Thomas and Alp, I'm just going to call you Alp because that's what I call you all the time, are in the Mercedes. Dylan Warren and HSV Freak in the Ferrari. Aero and Brett in the Red Bull. Zakar and Raikkonen in the Renault. Yost and Lawman's in the Haas, the two NSX guys on Montana and Lion in the McLaren, Fruitful Coup and Luke in the Racing Point, TTG Vaporon and Josh M97 in the Alfa Romeo, Sem and Lewis in the Toro Rosso, and finally Viati Chapelele and your champion Viati Midnight in the Williams. I'll hand over to Brett to do the honours, and let's end this stream, and obviously hope to see you next week. If Brett's still here.
Yeah.
So just if we could just end the stream, obviously.
Alright. Thank you everyone. We'll see you next week.